Fabulous. Welcome everybody. Have we got any apologies, Clark?
Apologies from Brendan, he's on a work call, but he will join us as soon as he's free.
Fabulous. And how are we courtesy wise?
We are quorate, thank you.
Fabulous. Let's begin. Minutes from the last meeting, 28th of May. Anyone got any amends, updates, comments?
None to me.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So we're good to sign those off. Fen,
Yeah.
do you need me to sign those now? Because I've got a problem with my printer.
No, don't worry, we'll sign them face to face when we see each
Okay.
other, whenever, but we'll accept this as a recording that they're accurate and happy to be
Okay.
approved.
Fabulous. Discuss any matters arising. Anybody got anything from the last meeting?
No.
No.
I have made the amendments as suggested to the various policies and documents.
Fabulous, thank you.
The only one I've not been able to action is the war memorial being added to our insurance.
Okay.
Cayman Company are operating email only, so I've sent a request but not had a response. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Declarations of pecuniary interest by members or the clerk. Anybody got anything?
Nope.
No.
No.
No. Okay, fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, item 5, questions or comments from members of the public. And how long have we got for this? 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Fabulous. Hang on, let me just
But
get
it's
back.
only on items on this agenda.
Okay, fabulous. Anyone got any questions on items on this agenda? You raising hands or no? Okay.
Can we just confirm, please, that at this particular meeting, we will not be taking any questions or comments on Ilsley Farm Barns?
Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Right. Next item. To consider the following application 2000945 House 17 Churchside, Mr. and Mrs. Golightly proposed 2-story side extension, rear single story extension and 2-story front porch. And I think we've got the folks whose application it is with us, have we?
Yeah, I've just asked them to unmute, but I believe that Ali Gol is...
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
us.
right,
Sorry,
yes.
it's my work
Hello.
email. Hi.
Hi, Ali. Is there anything you want to say before we discuss the application?
I
Particularly?
don't think so, but obviously happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So has everybody had a quick look at the plans?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, suggestions, comments?
No, it all looks fine. Yeah.
Good.
In terms of, have we had any response from any villagers, anything like that? No. So are we minded to object, not object, or support? Anyone in particular?
I think it's fine. Perfect. No
Oh.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Support.
Okay, would someone like to propose
Support.
that?
Yeah.
And seconded.
I propose to support. Yeah.
Right, so Tracy proposed to support.
Steve seconded, I think.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to abstain. So that goes through as supported by the council.
Okay, so we don't have any comments. Shall I just tick support and send off the document?
Yep. Because
Great.
no one had any kind of amended comments. We haven't received any comments from anybody. So clearly, I don't think there's anything. It's all contained within the application, and it's over to our friends at West Berkshire Planning to decide whatever they will do.
Do we need to just clarify, sort of, obviously Churchside is quite busy with cars.
Yes.
Sort of parking and workmen and that lorries and that kind of thing, that they won't cause any sort of
Ali, have you
jams.
got any views on in terms of the construction and the timetable?
Not yet. Obviously, we were kind of anticipating this whole process being delayed anyway, given the current situation. So we haven't taken steps to inquire with the builder or anything yet. But we have quite a good off-street parking area ourselves. So you could easily fit 4 cars, 5 cars in there, and garden as well that can be parked over at the time. So I don't think it should be a problem in terms of obstructing traffic.
And currently, I guess because we don't know how long planning is going to take, because you've probably missed the latest meeting, so it would be.
Yeah, I think at the end of June was the first time when they said they might get back to us. But
Okay. And I guess your builders currently can't possibly say anything until obviously planning permission has been decided one way or the other.
No, I can't see it happening anytime soon.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you for that, and thank you for coming along, because it really makes such a difference to have people to answer questions if any arise. But obviously, I think the documentation is pretty self-explanatory, so I don't think we've got any further questions. So thank you.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Excellent. Item 7, to consider whether to request our district councillor call in any planning applications to Western Area Planning Committee. Fen, do you want to just quickly explain this one?
Yeah, so this should be an item on all planning agendas. It's just whether we want to ask Caroline to increase anything that we've discussed, but obviously if this is going through fully supported with no actions or comments, we don't need to worry about that one.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like there's anything
nothing contentious, is there?
Contentious particularly about that one. So okay, so there's nothing on that one. And I noted your item about the A34 junction.
Yep.
Are we going to do that as AOB or?
Well, we can't have AOB as a parish council, but we do need to discuss it simply because the deadline is before our next full council meeting. So it's a bit unusual, but there are a couple of things we need to discuss as they need comments before we meet again.
Right, okay. And in terms of actually discussing things, should I stand the meeting down, do you think?
Yeah, you can do.
Well, let's stand the meeting down and then we can have a bit of discussion about this, because obviously this came in this afternoon, I believe.
It did, yes.
Anyone got any thoughts on what they've read or seen?
Doesn't seem to be much change to it, to be honest, apart from just a good tidy up and a widening of the island.
Yeah, and making the signs legal.
Yeah, that's probably more to do with legislation than anything. During the closures, sign diversions in place. I mean, I did mention this in the email that came round, that about 20 odd years ago, there was talk about this being turned into a T-junction. So effectively, because currently it's about the most dangerous configuration you could possibly have of cars going across each other at speed. Remember, you're coming off the A34 with that kind of 70 mile an hour head on, and all of a sudden, you know, you're going round a sharp left, or potentially joining to go to west. So there was conversations held about actually creating a T-junction, a formal T-junction that stopped everybody coming off clearly, and you either turned left or then you turned right. Equally, it would have cut 2/3 streams of traffic crossing each other.
Yeah,
because if you have every single combination of people coming at you, it does get a bit dangerous, I think.
Well, it's dodgy how it stands at the moment, to be fair.
Yeah.
It's always people that on the left-hand side, quite often people are there parked up, and it's
Yes.
just they're lost, and it's like you think, I've just missed you. So
Yeah, I've seen a number of people who come off the junction and park almost immediately,
yeah,
and not necessarily realising that people will treat it as almost a runoff and just come straight round.
yeah.
And I've seen a couple of near misses with people coming off at reasonable speed. So I wonder what comments are they actually looking for, Fen?
So it was it was the chap, Binam, who asked for comments. So Kia Highways, on behalf of Highways England, is undertaking a junction improvement scheme on the A34 northbound carriageway at East Ilsley. We're currently undergoing consultation in order to get stakeholder comments and suggestions regarding the renewal of the no entry signs. So actually this chap just wants comments on the renewal of the no entry signs by the 30th of June. The junction improvements is more of a courtesy email. The scheme is still in its planning phase. However, we wanted to provide the parish council with early notification. Confirmation of the details will be provided to yourselves and to the local community prior to work starting.
Right.
So the only comment really is any comments about the renewal of the no entry signs, which was the photo I sent you.
Yeah, well, I do wonder whether that might be a reason to ask them the question about the T-junction, because the comment would be, if you had a T-junction, you wouldn't need no entry signs in the same way.
Yeah, it's a good time to raise it again.
So,
the drawing
Yeah.
syndrome. Yeah.
and I do sort of wonder whether they're just going, well, it's a hideously dangerous road. It's hideously dangerous for getting on the A34 as well.
Yeah.
You've then got, potentially, as we said, streams of traffic. And I wonder whether potentially if we ask them that, have they reconsidered or looked at the plans that were put forward some years back? Because my concern with this is part of the whole A34 upgrade pressure group stuff that kicked off about 5 years ago when the Polish lorry driver ran into the car literally 200-300 yards from this junction, and this junction's responsible for quite a lot of accidents. I think if this might be the only chance you'll get in 20 years to do anything significant.
Well, because the thing is also, I know the A34 was one of the, it's a major trunk route, and it was never given an E number for a European road because the slip junctions were
breached
they breached the rules. And I know we're leaving the EU, but I do think that both south and north way too short. It's been, we've raised it as issues over the years, but maybe you can reiterate it again. I don't know. Maybe it'll help.
See, I just wonder then, because it's the 30th, could we potentially consider getting half an hour with these chaps on Zoom to see what is or isn't possible? Because if all they're interested in is basically worrying about whether or not we think they should be cutting vegetation down, and that's the top, middle and bottom of what they're going to consider and nothing else, we may be wasting our time. But if they will genuinely take a look at the junction in the round, and I almost wonder whether, might this be a time to drop a quick line to our MP? Because of course the former MP was quite involved in this campaign and took it through Parliament because I don't know if you can all remember it, it really was a big campaign. But subsequent to that campaign, not a single thing has been done on this section of road. I think everyone sort of thought, well, clearly they'll take a look at this junction because the junction may or may not have had an impact on that accident. And you know, how many accidents do you see on that stretch of road? A lot. So I wonder whether it might be worth us taking this opportunity to actually say to this lot and to traffic, hold your horses a little bit. You know, you're talking about whether no entry signs are illegal or appropriate. Actually, do we need to take a broader look? Because as I said, there's an outside possibility they may never look at this for another 20 years, and
That's a good idea.
people may end up losing their lives again. So
Because it looks like they're going to take some land away from the island. So if they're going to do some works anyway, I don't see why they can't just do it. Just do, you know, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, there's clearly a problem with the junction, and they seem to just be tinkering with it rather than looking at, you know, significant change. They're not extending the run-on, which is, I think.
Well, no, because the thing is, you're always worried when you're turning right to go on, whether someone's coming around.
Because it's a really blind corner.
And they're going to go west. It's like... So,
and again, this is, I think, why this T-junction was suggested, that people worked out, well, if you did that, you haven't got streams of traffic crossing each other at speed. You know, if you're turning onto the junction, it's a dead stop with a right-hand turn, or if you're coming off, it's a dead stop with a left or a right, depending on what traffic's coming. And you'd actually have to drive properly and look, because lots of people, I think, come off the road and don't look.
Yeah.
They come whizzing round the corner and just join the traffic. So, Fane, can we go back to them and see what is or isn't possible? And I wonder whether, if we get half an hour, we'll see how interested or not they are. And shall we drop a letter to our MP about it?
Yeah, if I draft a letter, I'll circulate it for you for approval and amendments.
Yeah, because I think if you make reference to the accident, because obviously this MP is not aware of how significant it was.
Yeah.
Who knows? It might make a difference. We might get something significant done to the junction rather than just playing with vegetation and no entry signs.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I never go on there. I drive to West if I need to go on the A34 because I don't like that short run up. Frightens me.
Well, I think both our junctions breach pretty much EU law and have done for a very long time. But I think we were under the impression when they started talking about looking into the A34, something was going to be done, and that doesn't seem to be the case. So let's perhaps take advantage of that. While the meeting stood down on this topic, does anybody else have any comment while you're here? Nick? Oh, sorry. One second.
Can you unmute, Nick?
Yeah, hang on. Can I?
Unmuted?
Yeah,
yes, thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you, Nick.
Good evening, Chair. Really, it's just a subject of traffic generally, and I know maybe this isn't the forum, but I have noticed during lockdown, and especially as we're coming out of lockdown, that the speed of traffic through the village has increased markedly. Yeah. Whether people feel as though it's a license to speed, but I can't help but notice the speed of traffic up Broad Street has increased immeasurably to the point it is like a Grand Prix track. And I do worry that, just as you say, there could be an accident at that very dangerous exit egress point onto the A34 north or south. With children in the village here, and even if I walk across to the post box, somebody's going to get hurt one day. Yes. And is there anything that we can do or anything we should be doing to try and bring some semblance of control back to the speed of traffic through this village? I know we have 20-mile-an-hour signs. I understand they're not enforceable. They are advisory. But it is getting worse and worse. I don't know if everybody else has noticed it, but it has got worse and worse.
Well, I saw someone today, funnily enough, coming in down Fiddler's Lane when I was walking the dogs, and they were doing 65, and they didn't slow down when they hit the VAS sign. And I think, yes, there's something about this change in traffic volumes and what have you. And I don't know whether people take a view, well, there's less traffic on the road, so I'm less likely to hit something, but aren't necessarily thinking about pedestrians, pets, dogs, kids, etc.
Yeah, that's true.
I think generally, I think there's probably two things we can do. One is contact our local Thames Valley Police about this perceived increase in speed in the traffic. And Mike, as you're doing some work with the speed indicator device.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, Nick, there were several of us that were trained last year to use the speed indicator device, because the police and council guidelines is to warn people with an indicator device that they are speeding, in the hope that that will help them reduce their speed when they understand how much faster they are going than that 20 mile an hour up Broad Street, as an example. So the verge area that's just outside part of Arnold's house actually was identified as a location where we could potentially mount or have the temporary device for certain periods to monitor speed on Broad Street. Then we have there's a data set then that, should we see the speed in certain tiers, like if it's between 20 and 25 mile an hour, I don't think anybody will do anything about it. But if it starts to become between 25 and 30 and over, and that's recorded by the device as significant amounts of data in that area, then it can move to a permanent device. Then it can move to Thames Valley Police, will come down with speed guns and start issuing tickets for people and that type of stuff. But I think the challenge we have is that the perception is, and it is indeed my perception as well, that the speed in the village is excessive. We need to prove that and evidence it. Unfortunately, we went into a rather horrible wet winter with dark evenings, etc., and then we've gone into lockdown. So we've not been in a position to be able to deploy the device yet, but that's something that we intend to do in the coming weeks and months.
Mike, quick question on the permanent ones, the smiley face ones. So how do we get one of those?
Well, you
can't just like ask for one, they give you one, or you have to go show that people speed before you get it.
Yeah, you kind of have to evidence it first. So so the mobile devices, which is referred to as SID, which is the speed indication device, that is the first port of call, because you have to start with an education phase of not nicking people and upsetting everybody. It's a case of, get the data set to say that people are indeed speeding on Broad Street, Fiddler's Lane, and there's numerous locations around the village that we identified. There's some key areas there, and it's get the data set on that at different times of day, different days of the week, and then pass that data set for analysis back to West Berks. And they'll come back and say the average traffic speed at Broad Street is 27 miles per hour. And then that kicks off then other things and other measures that we have at our disposal. And then it might be that we can get funding from West Berks should speed be a problem for a permanent device, or indeed we could elect as a parish council that we want to invest in one for certain locations around the village. But it's the temporary one that we get free of charge to those who've trained on it to do that.
Because I think the permanent ones are really good. There's a road near in Headley, going towards Parsons Green, and they have one of the permanent ones. And I go past like twice a week, and it's always, it reminds you that you've got to be doing under 30 because of the smiley face or the frown. And I think that really works.
Yes.
I mean, do we know how much they are?
The village bought the last two, so the one on Fiddler's Lane and the one on Abingdon Road, about 2006, 2007, and they were around about 5,500 each.
And were they?
Yeah. They're not cheap.
Yeah, and the challenges after that, Steve, as well, is that there are no lampposts in Broad Street, as an example for Nick and Harold. So you would have to have the more expensive devices that they either get powered by somebody or as a homeowner, or you would need to have the ones with the solar power panels on and everything. I believe that can double or triple the price if it's a self-contained unit, and then needs to be erected on site and stuff. But there are some elements of, and this was covered as part of the training we did before last summer, there are some elements of that the permanent devices can be less effective than the temporary ones. it's almost that if you get used to
You
seeing
get
all
used to
stuff,
seeing
and
it and it lighting
I
up.
live, I live out in Sheepdown, and I see every day people coming down Abingdon Road at 60 miles an hour and not braking, even going into the 20 and the contraflow area. Somebody apparently challenged the driver. One of my neighbours challenged the driver the other day, who was quite verbose back at him, but did point out that as you're coming down Abingdon Road, you don't see the give way sign to say it's a contraflow until you're around the corner of a house. So it's possible that we haven't got optimum sign placement in those locations as well. But there's no excuse really with going up Broad Street past Nick and Harold's, because you enter the 20-mile-an-hour zone either round by the pub, or you're coming in from Cow Lane in, so you've been in a 20 for 500 yards before you go past the hall and Kennet House. So there's no excuse really for that. So hopefully putting the indicator there will help people understand that it is a 20-mile-an-hour village.
Thank you.
Any other comments, Harold? Hang on.
Only notwithstanding recent sort of slightly difficult conversations, I'm really reassured to be allowed to participate in this parish council meeting, because as Nick and I have said repeatedly, we think you do an extraordinarily good job, and we're very grateful for the efforts you make. At the point that Mike was making just now, the missing link for me was only how do you achieve a fine producing speed control? Because I think we could all retire if we managed to collect the speeding fines that people would get for doing more than 30 miles an hour.
So, well, sadly, in terms of the sort of GATSO things like this, because we looked into this before the 20-mile-an-hour zone work was done. And, in colloquial language, the traffic people at West Berks were basically saying, well, once you get past more than 1 or 2 deaths.
Okay.
And it literally is that. So the other thing that I did just want to mention, Mike, that we could use, and this is important, Fen, we can get West Berkshire Traffic, as well as the SID device, to actually put up traffic monitors, which we've done on Abingdon Road, on Fiddler's Lane, on the top of the high street, and they'll sit there for a week and monitor, and you end up with this amazing data pool of means and averages and what have you. I think we might struggle on Broad Street, because what the chap who used to do it was really pernickety about was sight lines, and you have to give certain distance because there are key places where you go, well, I know if they put it there, you'd catch lots of people, but you will actually find, and the same with SID, you're not necessarily allowed to put it there because the rules will say there isn't 300 yard. I mean, Broad Street's difficult because you'd almost be allowed right at the end of it and probably nothing else.
Yeah, we have agreed with Graham, who is the relatively new, he's only been in for about 12 months in post or whatever. So he's the ex-Thames Valley inspector that now works for West Berks Council. And I walked around the village with him and other members of the team.
And
we identified that towards the end of Broad Street, outside Harold's house, there's a green, and that could point down to the corner of the road that's near the post box, and that would be a good sight line.
That would catch
people.
The appropriate. So I think what we might have to do, and again, I'm mindful also of, if we do this now, where traffic hasn't built up that much, we may find in a month's time with that same mentality, the problem is actually twice as bad. So if we get half the data now, or I know it sounds dreadful, but we did this once where the guy came in and did the survey at half term, and he practically came back and went, well, where's your problem?
Yes.
And then, of course, the minute everyone went back to school or back to work, it was back to that kind of racetrack mentality.
Yes.
So you've got to pick your moment. But I wonder whether there's a case for getting the fixed devices fixed where we can get them, be it Abingdon Road, be it Fiddler's Lane, be it the top of the high street, and then using SID, possibly, Mike, where it hasn't been used before, because whenever I've seen SID used before, it's always in the standard places, which is Fiddler's Lane and Abingham Road. It's very seldom that it's, you know, Church Hill or which has a different kind of speeding issue,
So
coming down the high street too.
I think what we should do, Andrew, is that I've got the diagram that I drew of the village with the locations that we were recommended. We cleared with West Berks Council. If we share that, Fen, with the minutes, then Harold and Nick will be able to see, and others will be able to see where we've recommended that we put those devices in or put SID in the first place. But the other devices, Andrew, are the next stage. So there's a thing called a Centurion device that actually has a camera inside that records your car, who was driving it, the registration, the time of the thing, and the speed, and that then triggers a naughty letter from Thames Valley Police, or on behalf of Thames Valley Police, to those drivers to say, you have been caught speeding, we are not prosecuting you at this time. Should you get 2 or more of these, then we'll start to pop round your house and have a chat with you, type of thing, and then it escalates from there. So
but I wonder whether we should follow this up with Graham now, even if we do it by Zoom, before, frankly, all the other villages and everybody else joins in, because they're not going to do anything immediately. But the audit devices that don't record anything apart from the mean speed, sit on the traffic lights, and they're really good on, you know, sort of Fiddler's Lane and places like that. But again, they can only sit them where they've got this sight line. Because I think, you know, the speed going out of Fiddler's Lane is hideous as well. You know, it's bad coming in, it's actually bad going out as well. And people don't realise you've got houses all the way up to the Maxted farm. Yeah. Okay, not many, but, you know, and there's often been kids there. And you know, with when and if we ever get back to having school buses, you know, we've talked about the problems with footpaths and missing footpaths. And, you know, I regularly see kids crossing in the square with some idiot doing 65 coming into the square, and this happens all over the village. So I think we should take this opportunity, both with the work Mike's done on SID and all the other things in the arsenal, and let's get Graham back down here, because hey, if he's new, you know, we know we've got some issues with the 20-mile-an-hour zone not entirely being where we'd like it in terms of pushing it further down Cow Lane, and you might find we might get a different hearing from a new bod, because he may take the view, well, what the hell did they do that for? Yes. Because it doesn't really make sense where they've cited it in terms of Cow Lane. They should have taken it to, you know, the edge of Summerdown, probably. Yes, at the very least. If not, even further. But they were claiming they didn't have anywhere to put the signs, you know, which is a really poor excuse. I think, so I think, Andrew, having spoken to Graham a number of times before, I think the best course of action for us is to work on getting SID as soon as practically possible while the traffic volume increases. Okay. And then use that data to go back to Graham and just go, you know, of the 8 sites, however, we identified, 6 of them are clearly an issue because we have that data set. Let's move quickly into the next phase of recording devices and start to do that and move that forward. Excellent. But they're very keen on educate first as a first stage, not jumping into prosecution and letters and all that kind of stuff, because it starts to become more expensive, I think, as well as not practical. But it was all about, all they ever said to us on the training was, it's all about getting the data. When you've got the data, you haven't got Nick turned up at a meeting and said people are speeding past my house. You've gone, cars are going 28 miles an hour in a 20 past that house most hours of the day, and then you've got that to support. So I think we're all aware we have a problem. I think the SID will highlight a problem, and we should use that course of action first. I agree, and I think Fen, if we are writing to Laura re the junction, I think it would hurt not at all to add a paragraph about this perceived increase in speed and frailties in, you know, how our 20-mile-an-hour zone was instigated and things like this, because, you know, you again just never know. Some new people, some new names, they may, you know, she's been down, she's seen the pond, she knows the geography of the place, so we might get a sympathetic ear. Yeah, definitely. So I think that would be well worth doing it. Has anybody got any further comments on the A34 junction or any other sort of Arvel?
Yeah, sorry, only it may sound flippant, but it's actually seriously meant. One of the things I was planning to ask you for advice, if I mobilize my neighbors in Broad Street, and I bought these 20 miles an hour sticker, which Nick's neighbor, sorry Nick, I can't remember his name, has on his bin.
Yes.
And if we put them in Broad Street in a sort of slalom configuration, how many laws would we be breaking?
Unfortunately, Harold, you're breaking quite a lot of laws, and in fact, you are actually given, if you don't have standard size signs at regular intervals, as per the highways code, which unfortunately I've read, and I don't recommend that you read it because it's quite dull and boring. But apparently, motorists before have got off fines because they've said there was these array of signs on bins. It was all very confusing, and I didn't know what the actual speed was. So people have used that in their defence to get off speeding fines rather than to be helpful. So, but likewise, if we do think that the signage is inadequate or placed in the wrong place, the official signage, then we are within our rights to ask for that to be sorted out by highways and amended.
I wasn't thinking about signage, I was thinking about blockage. Bins
in
the road.
I think, funnily enough, we talked about this with, kind of flippantly, but with things like Fiddler's Lane, where disappointingly, when they put the traffic calming in, they gave us 48 hours notice of what they were doing.
Right.
Clearly ineffective. And we were pointing out, well, have you ever driven through Cheveley, which is sort of akin to East and West Berlin in terms of its traffic? And yet it isn't a major thoroughfare in the way that we are.
Yeah.
It's just quite incredible. And yet, there was absolutely no conversations about could we have push me, pull me, where one has to stop, because there was this sort of overarching world, farm vehicles have to have, so you can narrow the road, but you have to be able to get 2 farm vehicles through at the same time or something, which basically meant that we got about 4 inches of traffic calming, which didn't do anything.
Yeah.
And we talked about, funnily enough, buying a village car, keeping it MOT'd and randomly parking it around the village in an awkward place.
Exactly, that's my thought. Exactly.
They can't actually stop you doing that if it's taxed and tested.
Because it's on the road.
Because it's on the road.
Yeah.
Skips are difficult because skips, you've got to have licenses, you've got to have lighting and things like this. I think the problem is that I was thinking about with the road sign issue. We talk about we live in a conservation area, and I think the road signs in the village are pretty hideous as they are. With the plethora of them, we have far too many in some places and not enough in the others. And I think the other thing that was really disappointing when they put the 20 zone in was that where you could have written 20 on the road, either the regulations didn't allow it or they ran out of budget, because the places they put them were really quite odd. They haven't updated them, because I think there's a huge argument for Broad Street for having 20 written on the actual road, which it isn't at the moment, I don't think.
No, but it
is as you get round the corner, and people don't see it because there was a car parked halfway across it. So I think signage, Mike. I think we should ask them to come and.
Sorry, just one question. I'm sorry, I don't want to occupy all your time, and I know you're busy, and thank you for everything you do. But if anyone would like to come for a coffee, socially distanced at Kennett House to discuss this in more detail, I'd love to welcome you or meet you anywhere else.
Mike, you're heading up traffic. Would you like to liaise with Harold about that? Because
I'll arrange that with you, Harold. Gladly.
I think the more folk we can get in, because we do have these significant corners in East Ilsley where back in the 70s or 80s, West Berkshire does no good at all by shaving corners off roads. They knocked Georgian building down opposite the Swan to actually straighten Fiddler's Lane. Real, you know, and the racing corners, which I believe are there for the farm traffic, do create this sort of, you know, you don't have to brake as you take practically every corner in the village, and people drive like that.
Yeah.
So I think that's really disappointing. But I think again, things like this sometimes need momentum.
I'm sorry, this is probably totally inappropriate, but Mike, can I just give you my mobile number?
Yes.
07831
Yep.
561161.
Got it.
Apologies, Chairman.
No, but
Apologies.
for future reference, as we don't want this necessarily broadcasting to the entire world, you could have popped it in the chat.
Ah, thank you. How do you do that? Okay.
You
but
press
I have
the
no
chat button.
secrets.
Yeah.
I have no secrets, so it doesn't matter. But
Okay.
where do you put chat? Ah, chat.
Yeah.
Okay,
Harold, can I just check? Obviously, this is going to go on the YouTube channel. Are you okay with that?
yeah, no problem. More the merrier.
Okay. Yeah.
Actually, Ali has dropped something.
I don't get enough incoming calls. I feel lonely.
You may well start to get a lot from Nigeria, I feel.
Yeah.
Okay, in which case, can you delete that? Is there some way you can edit the recording?
Actually, we can, because we've stood the meeting down. So
I'll cut that bit out.
We're not part of the official meeting. So if there's no further questions, I will stand the meeting back up.
Just one thing, Andrew, before you do that, sorry.
Okay,
Ali did drop into chat that having a T-junction up above Fiddler's Lane rather than the on-ramp, off-ramp could potentially slow traffic into Fiddler's Lane down as well. I agree.
Yeah, no, I think it could. You know, it was seriously considered, and for some reason, you know, they and all that's happened since, they just keep tinkering with what they've got rather than actually grasping the nettle of dealing with it. And thank you everybody for your very kind comments, and delighted to see you here. Right, I'll stand the meeting back up. Right, so we're on to
one thing extra. Sorry.
Yeah.
We need a decision regarding phase 1B of the playground.
Right.
So if you recall, phase 1 is the repairs based on the inspection report.
Yes.
That is being carried out by Chris
Yes.
from Hungerford. He is beginning phase 1 for us on the 22nd of June.
Excellent.
He's very busy, as you can imagine, because all the parish councils have used this time to do some repairs. But he's squeezing in jobs for us on a needs-must basis. So we're starting off with important things like fixing the swings, fixing the benches, and then big jobs like the cableway and the train are kind of lower down because they take a bit more manpower, a bit more material. So phase 1A is really is the money that we allocated, this sort of £3,000 that is going to be spent on the repairs.
Yes.
Phase 1B is something that we would like to action ASAP.
Yeah.
What we'd like to do is use 15k of the earmark reserves to purchase new play equipment.
Right.
We've got some quotes, one from Red Lynch and one from Complan.
Yeah.
The match funding for this type of project takes a calendar year, basically. So what we would like to propose is that this is done as a phased process. So phase 2 and phase 3 and phase 4 is supported through matched funding and grants. Yeah. But we'd like to request that phase 1B could be paid for with what's in earmark reserves. The reason for the rush job is that lead time on all of these products is 4 to 5 weeks. The new rules is that, bye Nick, thank you.
Thank you, sorry.
Thanks, Nick.
The reason for the rush is that, the lead time of 5 to 6 weeks would bring us in line with potential school holidays and when the UK government could move us to level 2, which means playgrounds can be open. It is all still a bit up in the air, and NAUC haven't given us any further details. But we'd like to see if we can come up with an agreement that we could purchase a new piece of play equipment so that when it is open, we've got a new exciting piece of kit for the kids to play on.
I'm fine with that. I have no issue.
How much are we talking about spending, Fen?
Can I share my screen with you so I could show you?
Yeah, of course. Because I think
Right.
it's, you know, this is all proportion, really. You know, if it's not a huge amount, then it's a quick win.
Okay, that's not the right one. Here it is. So, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Right, so Red Lynch, who've been in contact with Brendan and the whole of the playground team, have sent this quotation over. We're looking at about 19,870 ex VAT. So VAT will be on top of that, which we can claim back. And what they are proposing we get is this lovely piece of kit, 2 slides, we've got a rope bar, we've got climbing cages, we've got ladders.
Fen, I've got the house plans. at the
House
moment.
plan.
Oh, why can't you see that?
I've got a house plan. Okay.
That's
Yeah.
really not what we want the children to play with. Try this.
I think they're a bit dearer as well.
Is that better?
There we go.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
it.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah,
so this is
cool.
one piece of kit, and included in that price of just under 20,000 are these cradle swings here. So we've obviously got swings, but they're just the regular seat swings. So
Yeah.
these are the ones for the toddlers that keep them a bit more secure.
Okay.
The other option is, if I switch this, can you see Complan now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is another tower.
Yeah.
Tower with a slide, and
Yeah,
that
I
is
can see that.
that's coming in at 14,687, including VAT.
That's very good.
Good.
Now, both of these products are 4 to 5 weeks, and they can come and do install for us.
Okay.
What Brendan and I were hoping was that we could agree as full council tonight that 15,000 in earmarked reserves in playground could be spent on one new piece of kit ready for the grand opening. And then phase 2 and 3 is funded through grants and match funding.
So the one question I've got, so I'm kind of keen on obviously the speed and things, but what does really concern me is, are we potentially losing any match funding opportunities by spending the money in isolation rather than putting it into a bigger pot? So, you know, should our 15 not be becoming 30? Whereas if you spend 15, you get 15 grand's worth of stuff.
Initially, our outlay would be 15, and we wouldn't obviously get anything matched for that. But what we have got is, I mean, in the bank, there are general reserves of a substantial amount, which we could use as a, I suppose, collateral against matched funding. It doesn't have to be spent, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, but this does have to be spent. That's.
It will, but we've got pond to think about.
Yeah,
it's true. I mean, from the pictures, the first one looks great, but the other one, the Complan one, looks, well, it doesn't look as good.
It's hard to say because you can only see a little picture of that.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So I kind of would rather see some actual pictures of all of the kids.
Can you see that now?
No, it'll be
No,
out
not
the
a-
window, Fen. You've got a shared PDF, and it would be.
Okay, hang on. Let me reshare that page.
All right, yeah.
so it's kind of similar to what we've got or had, isn't it?
I like the wooden one more, to be fair, from a visual perspective. But I suppose, I mean, Brendan knows what he's doing with the program, but I would have kind of thought that the wooden one would be better. I'm not sure.
Would
Okay,
this one not last longer though? Because if it's plastic and metal, it would last longer than the wood.
Yeah, so we've had a look at some guarantees. They're about 10 years, 10 to 15 years with Complan. Complan have been going since 1970,
So
and
that's good to know.
they're a global leader, so they're
Okay.
all around the world. So we've got not really much chance of them going disappearing.
Which is what happened with the last lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So even though we ended up with dodgy material in the play equipment, we had nowhere to go. We had a guarantee and no one to guarantee behind it.
Yeah.
Um,
Harold, do you have a comment on that?
I know it's none of my business. I'm not supposed to even be here, but what about asking the prospective users for their opinion? I know it sounds very Scandinavian, but have a little poll amongst the children.
Well, so most.
I totally agree with Steve, by the way. The one structure looked far superior to the other, but why not ask the users?
Well, these recommendations have come from the playground group, the working group, who are all parents to small children that use the play park.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. I suppose that the problem we've got is the fact that the cost of the wooden one and the cradle swings takes us almost at our limit of what's in the earmark reserves without us even paying for the repairs yet.
yes.
Whereas the Complan one leaves us with £5,000 to pay Chris for the repairs, which means we would have a new piece of kit plus all other items in the playground working safely.
Because I think my concern is it's not even so much you have to almost take it away from being repaired. What you've actually got currently is a liability that's been identified under the audit. So I think you've got to approach this along the lines of you have to do the repairs firstly. Nothing else can be considered. I think the only thing that we have in our favour is obviously we had the insurance claim, which almost covers the cost of the repairs. So we have almost got them free if you look at it on that level. I'm a tad uncomfortable being given 10 minutes to spend more money than the village has spent in the last 20 years. Not saying that I wouldn't, but you know, we normally spend 25 minutes talking about £400.
Yeah, I think we've got.
I think you should wait until the July meeting,
because the play won't be ready.
Or what we could do potentially, Fen, is arrange an extraordinary meeting, couldn't we, to discuss just this as a single
yeah, definitely. Say 2 weeks' time.
Or something like that.
That's all fine, but each time we're doing that, we're delaying the install date.
Yes, but we're delaying it by 2 weeks, not because we've had no papers about this prior. I had no indication we were going to talk about it.
It only came in this afternoon.
No, well, at least I would have had a chance to wrap my head around, whereas you're literally kind of going, is it 22 red or 22 black?
Yeah, I'd say let's do a Zoom meeting in 2 weeks' time.
Or even sooner if you can arrange it, Fen.
Yeah.
What does everybody else think? Tracy?
Yeah,
Mike?
I'm fine. Anytime, yeah.
Well, in terms of, are you comfortable making a decision tonight?
No, I want more info, probably.
I mean, my only concern is match funding. If this has been, we can't get extra cash, then we can't get it. But
if we could,
if the question hasn't been asked, then
you know, we're buying 19 grand's worth, and we could have bought 40 grand's worth.
Yeah, exactly. And if we can't turn that 19 into, 38 in 2 weeks, then we can't do it. But I'd rather we, as a village, maximise the money we've got at hand.
Where are we with the Greenham Common Trust application, Fen?
Well, it's on. It's open, but it's open for 12 months. There's nothing we can do about it. We won't get any funding from them until
No.
April next year.
I know, but what I'm, but you see, the challenge is, because I know you can get funding directly from organisations and corporations and even West Berkshire Council, because I've done it myself. If the parish council wrote the cheque for 19,000 to Greenham Common Trust, they would match the 19,000.
I don't know the answer.
Or-
Brendan's
or-
spoken to the lady, and apparently absolutely nothing's happening at the moment.
So, you know, here is your dilemma. You know,
I think what Brendan was aiming for was, and what the villagers want, is that money in earmark reserves should and needs to be spent, and we need to be seen to be
absolutely, but it
doing
needs to be
something.
spent judiciously and with care. And everyone needs to be confident that we've given it some thought, because you know, we find out something terrible happens and we've got no money to do something. People are going, well, what the hell did you do that for?
Well, I think Brendan needs to be here. I've said
well, I
all
think
that
so.
I needed
No,
to say.
Fen,
So.
I think fine, but I think what we need to do is we need to get a meeting where we can guarantee Brendan is going to be at the meeting to be able to answer the questions, and any spare information you've got, can we whiz it round? And I don't care whether the meeting is 7 days time or 10 days time, but pivotal to it is him being at it.
Yeah, because I'm going to be sure what I've got.
Yeah.
Also, Fen, I mean, maybe this is a nice idea to get the RMP involved.
We'd love to have her to do a grand opening, but we haven't got anything shiny and new to open with.
I mean, she's not going to help with funding, Steve.
Well, if West Berkshire Council can get match funding, I don't see how we can't.
No. You can get it, but you have to go through the mechanism with Greenham Common Trust, and the problem is projects run for a certain period of time. So, what I might do is, if you can send everybody the link to where it is, Fen, we can go and have a look at what it says. Because I know the guy who runs Greenham Common, so I can always drop him an email and say, where are
that's
you?
the thing. I'd rather we turn that cash into double and agree it now.
Because I'm comfortable doing the repairs because we've had the money from the insurance. So let's get that done. Let's approve that. Everyone happy with that?
Yeah.
I am, definitely.
Yeah.
And then I think let's get a date when Brendan can absolutely do it and be here and just talk us through it. And if you have got any of that information, Fem, can you whiz that round as well, and with the Greenham link? Errol, can I just bring you in very, very briefly?
No, only a practical question. I'm sorry to interfere, but it's a question of fundraising, okay, in the village. How much money is needed here? Did I understand £15,000?
Well, there's two choices. There's one option is 15,000, and the other is 19,000. But the horns of the dilemma for us is that potentially there is fund matching from charities, from grant givers that will match that. So the aim was that if the parish council stumped up kind of 15,000 to the project with some fundraising, some fund matching, writing some grant applications, we'd end up with our sort of 70,000 total, where we could build something amazing.
Right. And so all I'm saying is that having, with huge embarrassment, only found out about certain events around us in recent weeks, I have noticed a great mobilization of passion amongst people about what's going on here.
Yes.
And I think we should, once we get through the current challenge, we should mobilize that same energy into raising funds for something as vital as this.
Yes. Okay.
So
I agree. So Fen, let's approve the repair budget. So as we know that
we did that last meeting.
That's done,
all sorted.
and that's actioned. And then I think the action really is send the info round. Let's get a meeting agreed. And if we have guys, can you do it earlier if that's easier for Brendan?
Yeah, fine. No issue.
Like
Yeah,
5:30 or
alright,
something,
yeah.
Fen? Or is that okay with you, Fen?
What did you
If
decide?
we had to do the meeting earlier because of Brendan's work, which takes him away, or because he seems to be busy, you know, the time we do the meetings.
Yeah, just say in our standing orders that our meetings won't be any earlier than 6.
Okay. I mean, we don't need that long, I don't think, once we've actually seen sight of the information.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, at least now, if we know that next week we're making a decision, we know what we're being faced with.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I'll report back to Brendan, but he's getting a bit of stick about us being sat on all this money, which they can see from the AGAR, and us not spending it.
Yeah, but every time we ask people for information, they don't. Where are they? You know, you know, we can buy a village unicorn, but you know, we wouldn't necessarily be thanked for it in 3 years' time if we end up with you know, people's houses being flooded or something, or Lord knows what else. So let's we now know what we're being asked. So let's deal with that next week. You know, a week is not going to make a difference one way or the other. And we have some actions we can take. So let's do that. So last standing item, I believe, is any questions. So Harold, anything else you want to ask?
No, thank you very much. Thank you.
So I think, are we done?
Can I just say?
Yes, of course, Trace. Oh, sorry, I've got something to say, but go on, Trace.
Yeah. The merits about the Penn Meadow Field.
Yes.
It needs cutting down. It's a mess.
No, well, I mentioned this in an email to Caroline that Lockinge are not doing a very good job.
No, it's
of
awful.
looking after the trees because they've all got TPO orders on. It's basically a nettle bed. So when we're talking about, you know, attracting bees and insects and things like this, and turning places into active meadows and wildfire meadows, let's see if we can get something out of Lockinge.
Yeah.
It does look bad coming down the high street.
Oh no, but it's been like this for 10 years and it's just shocking.
I know, but it's just looking bad now.
Tracy, I just want to say huge thanks to you for all the work that's been going with the benches, with the surveys and things like that. So thank you so much for doing that. Absolutely amazing. And everybody else who's joined in. Again, to all the emergency volunteers who are still doing such a sterling job. Absolutely remarkable. And I think with that, we'll call an end to that, and I can go back and finish my cooking that I was in the middle of.
All right, guys.
No worries.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you very much, everybody.
All the very
Good
best.
night. Good
Cheers.
night.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you.